Dear students, today I am going to give a PowerPoint presentation about nuclear detectors. In our previous classes, we have already discussed radioactivity, alpha decay, beta decay. Now, in this presentation, we are going to discuss nuclear detectors. Introduction. Under the heading Introduction, now let us discuss why we need these nuclear detectors. Now, in radioactivity, we came to know that there are certain elements which emit certain radiations like alpha, beta and gamma spontaneously. These radiations will come out from the nucleus of the respective atoms. So, it was realized that these radiation will have certain information about the nucleus, and as a result, detecting these radiations, measuring these radiation will give a lot of information related to structure and properties of the nucleus. Therefore, we have to find out these radiations which are coming out from radioactive elements. The radiations coming out from nucleus such as alpha, beta, gamma, they behave like signals which carry information about structure and properties of the nucleus. Hence, their detection and measurement play a very important role in nuclear physics. Therefore, the scientists have designed certain instruments which are called as nuclear detectors. Therefore, nuclear detectors are nothing but instrument designed to detect and measure these radiations. Usually all detectors consists of two parts. They are nothing but detecting system and measuring system. Look at this figure. Now here in this figure we are having two parts. One is cylindrical chamber like part and another one is a box type device. Now this cylindrical type part of the nuclear detector is called as detecting system, and the box type device which you can see in the figure is nothing but the measuring system. Now we are going to send the radiation to enter into the detecting system. This will detect the particle and the measuring system will give the output. So every nuclear detector consists of two parts. One is detecting system and another one is measuring system. Now these nuclear detectors, they will not only use to detect the nuclear radiations, that alpha, beta, gamma, but they can also be used in order to detect other particles like electrons, protons, neutrons, fission fragments, etc. The very important thing is, how does a detector work? Now this we have to discuss here. Now in order to detect the particle, now what we are going to do, we are going to allow those radiations to enter into certain material medium, and these radiation, they will interact with the material medium, and by looking at the interaction or by analyzing the interactions between the radiations and the atoms or molecules which are present in the material medium, we can easily identify the particle. Now this particular technique we are going to use in detectors. Now what happens when the particle enter into a material medium? Radioactive radiation enter into a material medium. Now these radiations, they may interact with the atoms of the material medium in different ways. One possibility is these radiation can ionize the atoms which are present in the medium, or they may excite the atoms, which results in the fluorescence phenomena, or they affect the photographic plate. Now, depending upon how the radiation interacts with the material medium, now there are different types of nuclear detectors. And among the different types of nuclear detectors in your syllabus, according to your syllabus, we are going to discuss only one particular type of nuclear detectors, which is nothing but ionization detectors. Now we are going to concentrate only on ionization detectors. The name itself says that here, when the particle enters into the detector, it will interact with the material medium which is present in the detector, and they will cause ionization. And this ionization is analyzed. Using the results, we can able to find out the particle which is entering into the detector. Now such detectors are called as ionization detectors. Okay. Types of ionization detectors. Ionization detectors are of two types. One is gas filled ionization detectors, another one is solid state ionization detectors. From the name itself, it is clear that in first type, the material medium is in gaseous state. In the second type, we are going to take a solid material to interact the radiation in order to analyze the interaction between the radiation. So we are having two types of ionization detectors. One is gas-filled ionization detector and solid-state ionization detectors. Examples for gas-filled ionization detectors are ionization counter, proportional counter, Geiger-Müller counter, spark chamber, etc. Whereas examples for solid-state ionization detectors are Cherenkov counter, semiconductor counter, scintillation counter. Even though we are having two types of ionization detectors, in your syllabus, we are having a detailed study of only gas-filled ionization detectors. So we are going to concentrate only on gas-filled ionization detectors, in which the material medium is in gaseous state. Now let us understand the construction and working of a gas-filled ionization detectors. Now look at the figure. Now this is gas-filled ionization detector is a very simple device which is made up of a hollow metallic cylinder, and we have named this cylinder by a letter C. Look at the diagram. We are having a cylindrical shaped chamber which is denoted by the which is named by the letter C. Now this is a cylinder, and this cylinder will acts as a cathode. Now why it acts as a cathode? Because now this cylinder is connected to negative terminal of the external battery. As a result, this metallic cylinder will act like a cathode. And we are having a thin metal wire W which is fixed along the axis of the cylinder. Look at the diagram. W is nothing but a thin metal wire which is fixed along the axis of the cylinder, and this is not in direct contact with the cylinder. That means now we have well insulated the metal wire with the cylinder, and this metal wire will act as anode because the metal wire W is connected to positive terminal of the external battery. As a result, now this W is also called as anode. Therefore here we are having a cathode, which is nothing but the cylinder, and a thin, very thin metallic wire which is fixed coaxial to the cylinder will act like an anode. And this cylinder is filled with some inert gas, and a suitable potential difference is maintained between C and W. Now what happens when a radioactive radiation enter into the chamber? So when the particle, here in the figure, the particles are named as source. When a source is entered into the detector chamber, the chamber is filled with gas atoms and molecules, and when the source enter, or when the radiation enter into the chamber, they will interact with the atoms, and it will result in the ionization. Now during the ionization, a neutral atom of the material medium will split into two parts, will split into two. That means one is negatively charged electron and another one is positively charged ion. Now electron is, because of the ionization is nothing but removal of electron from the neutral atom. When an atom is removed from the neutral, when an electron is removed from the neutral atom, the remaining part of the atom will become positively charged ion. Therefore, because of one ionization, we are going to get one electron ion pair. And this ionization in the chamber will continue till the radiation loses all its energy. As a result, in the chamber we will be having a large number of free electrons and ion pairs. These electrons will get attracted towards the anode, that is W, and since the circuit is closed, a current flows in the circuit. That particular current here is called as the ionization current, and by measuring this ionization current, we can able to find out, we can able to detect the particle. And the ionization current produced in such nuclear detectors are very, very small in magnitude. They are of the order 10 to the power of minus 12 to 10 to the power of minus 15 ampere. Therefore, in order to measure such a low value of current, ordinary ammeter is not suitable, and we are going to use a special type of instrument which is called as electrometers, or you can send the signals to an amplifier circuit and we can able to measure the ionization current. Now this is how a simple ionization detector works. That means here in gas-filled ionization detectors, we are going to allow the radiation to enter into the chamber. In the chamber, ionization of the atoms takes place. As a result, we are going to get large number of electrons and ion pairs. These electrons will get attracted by the anode and they flow in the circuit and they will produce current known as ionization current. By measuring the ionization current, we can able to detect the particle, and by detecting that particle, we can able to know more about its parent nucleus. This is how a gas-filled ionization detector works. Now let us discuss about this in detail. For example, assume that the particle or the radiation to be detected is proton. Let us send a proton which carries an energy 3 mega electron volt, and let us allow this proton to enter into the chamber. And assume that a proton requires 30 electron volt of energy to ionize one atom. Then, since the proton is having altogether 3 mega electron volt, this single proton can able to produce 1 lakh electron ion pairs. So, we are going to get a huge number of electron ion pairs. This is the main idea behind the working of a gas field ionization detectors. And the experimental results shows that the ionization current produced in the gas field ionization detectors depends upon 2 factors. One is the current I, ionization current I. It depends upon the initial number of ion pairs produced by the nuclear radiation. Now, initial number of ion pairs, it is also called as primary ionization, and it is denoted by the letter N. Now, N is nothing but the number of ion pairs, which is produced because of the interaction between the nuclear radiation and the material medium. And the value of N, it depends upon which type of the radiation is entering into the chamber, whether we are allowing alpha particle or beta particle or gamma particle. Now, depending upon the type of radiation, the value of N will vary. Now, this is one factor on which the ionization current depends. The another factor is the voltage what we are applying in the detecting system, the applied voltage. The ionization current produced in the nuclear detector will also depend upon the value of the applied voltage. So, we are not having any control over N because it depends upon the type of the radiation which is entering into the chamber. But we can have a control over V. So, let us discuss how the ionization current depends upon the applied voltage. Let us do one experiment and let us study how ionization current depends upon applied voltage, and this topic is very, very important for your exam also. Now, therefore, the heading is variation of ionization current with applied voltage. So, let us conduct an experiment by considering 2 identical detectors. Let us allow different radiations in these 2 detectors. Assume that the primary ionization in the first detector is N1 and the primary ionization in the second detector is N2. Also assume that N2 is greater than N1. That means the primary ionization in the second detector is greater than in the first detector. And what we are going to do in these detectors, we are going to vary the voltage gradually from 0, and we are going to record the current. And in order to understand the dependence of ionization current on applied voltage, we are going to tabulate the readings and we are going to plot a graph. Therefore, with the help of a graph, we are going to understand the variation of ionization current with applied voltage. Therefore, let us plot a graph of ionization current I versus applied voltage. And here we are going to vary the voltage from 0. From 0 we are going to vary the voltage and we are going to record the current, and we are going to plot graph for both the detectors for both the detectors. Okay. First, let us begin the experiment with zero voltage. Assume that the applied voltage is 0 and you are allowing the particle to enter into the detector. Now what happens? The particle will ionize the atoms, and since the applied voltage is 0, the W is no more acts like an anode. It will not attract the electrons, and as a result the electrons and the positive ion, they will move randomly in the chamber and they will collide with each other, and as a result what happens when the electron come in contact with the positive ion, the recombination of the ions takes place. Recombination of the ions takes place. Let us increase the voltage gradually. When the voltage is increased gradually, the anode become more and more positive. As a result, it will start to attract the electrons. Therefore, one by one, the electrons in the chamber gets attracted by the anode, and as a result, the current also increases. But when the applied voltage is very, very small, the anode is not able to attract all the electrons. Therefore, recombination of electron-ion pairs will take place. There exists recombination of electron-ion pairs, and since we are increasing the voltage slowly, the recombination decreases. When recombination decreases, automatically the current in the circuit increases. Therefore, look at the graph. When the applied voltage is 0, current is also 0, and when the voltage is increased from 0, the current is also increasing, and this shows that the recombination of the ion pairs gradually decreases, and hence the current automatically increases gradually, and you are going to get two curves. One is for first detector and another one is for second detector. And let us assume that when the applied voltage is V1, then the potential at the anode is sufficient to attract all the electrons which were produced during primary ionization. Then when the applied voltage is V1, when the applied voltage is V1, when the applied voltage is greater than V1 or when it is equal to V1, there is no recombination in the chamber. Therefore, the voltage range between 0 to V1, in which you are going to see the recombination of ion pairs in the chamber. Now this particular voltage region is called as recombination region, and this voltage region is not useful in order to identify the particle. Okay. Next, now you know the voltage at which the recombination stops. Therefore, now let us adjust the voltage in the detector which is greater than V1, and now you allow the particle to enter into the chamber. Then what happens? Now this is about the information related to recombination region. Okay. Now let us further increase the voltage from V1. When the voltage is greater than V1, you know that the positive potential at the anode is sufficient to attract all the electrons which are produced during primary ionization. As a result, you are going to get a constant current, ionization current, and you are going to get a graph which is almost parallel to the x-axis. And you are going to see such a type of curve between voltage V1 and voltage V2. In this voltage region, the primary ionization is completely measured, and as a result, with that particular information, you can able to identify the particle. This particular voltage region is called as ionization chamber region, and this voltage region is usually used in order to detect the particles like alpha particles and fission fragments. Okay. Let us see what happens when the applied voltage is greater than V2. Now this is information about the ionization chamber region. Now if you further increase the voltage, now let us allow the particle to enter into the chamber when the voltage is greater than V2. When the voltage is greater than V2, then the potential at the anode is very high, and it will attract the electrons with a very high force. Because of this very high attractive force, the electrons will move towards the anode with very high speed, with very high kinetic energy, and therefore these electrons, which are the result of primary ionization, they will approach the anode with very high kinetic energy, and as a result they experience collision. These electrons further collide with the atoms which are present in the chamber, and they will also cause the ionization. Now this ionization is called as secondary ionization. So this is different from the primary ionization. Primary ionization is the ionization produced by the radiation which is entering into the chamber, and at this voltage range, that means when the voltage is greater than V2, two types of ionization takes place simultaneously in the chamber. One is primary ionization because of the radiation which is entering into the chamber. Another one is secondary ionization, which is produced by the electrons when they collide with the atoms while moving towards the anode. As a result, gas multiplication takes place. Now, what is the meaning of gas multiplication? Sudden increase in the number of ion pairs is known as gas multiplication. Now this is because in the chamber simultaneously both primary ionization and secondary ionization takes place, and you are going to notice a sudden increase in the current. Look at the graph. After voltage V1, the ionization current is increasing sharply, suddenly, to a very high value. Now this is because here we are getting more current because of the production of very large number of electron ion pairs, and this is due to the simultaneous occurrence of two types of ionization. One is primary and another one is secondary ionization. Here in this voltage region, the gas multiplication factor M is of the order 10 to the power of 3. That means each electron from the primary ionization will produce secondary 10 to the power of 3 secondary ionization. So the number of ion pairs in the chamber is given by N into M. N is the number of primary ionization. M is the gas multiplication factor. Therefore, the ionization current is very high, and it was observed that the ionization current is directly proportional to N, and also it directly proportional to applied voltage. And such a type of variation we are going to notice between a voltage range V2 and V3, and this particular voltage range or region is called as proportional counter region, because here we are going to see the proportionality relationship between the current and N, current and applied voltage. Therefore, this voltage range V2 to V3, look at the graph. The voltage value from V2 to V3 is called as proportional counter region. This particular voltage region is used in order to detect beta particles, X-rays and gamma rays. And such a type of proportionality will stop when the applied voltage becomes still more, that is, which is greater than V3. Therefore, after V3, the voltage range is not called as proportional counter region. Therefore, between V2 and V3, you are going to have a proportional relationship, and this particular voltage region is called as proportional counter region. In this region, gas multiplication takes place because of simultaneous happening of primary and secondary ionization, and in this region the gas multiplication factor is 10 to the power of 3. Now let us increase the voltage which is greater than V3, and let us allow the radiation to enter into the chamber. Let us see what happens. Now you are going to see that the proportional relationship between current and voltage will no more exist, and the two different curves will start to merge towards one another. That means this particular voltage region, here the multiplication factor increases and it is between 10 to the power of 5 to 10 to the power of 7, and since there is no proportional relationship between current and voltage, now this voltage region is called as limited proportional region, and this region is not useful in order to detect the particle. So if the voltage is increased further, M increases and the proportionality between current and V disappears, and the region is called limited proportional region and is not used for any detection. Now let us increase the voltage further. Let us adjust in the chamber which is greater than V4, and now you allow the radiation to enter into the chamber. Then what happens in the chamber? Now the anode is at very high positive potential. As a result, as soon as the particle or the radiation enter into the chamber, the first primary ionization, assume that the first primary ionization takes place, the electron produced in the first ionization, primary ionization, will get attracted towards the anode with very high kinetic energy. As a result, as soon as the primary ionization begins in the chamber, the electron will rush towards the anode, and the secondary ionization takes place with a higher speed, and within no time the secondary ionization will spread in the entire chamber, and we are going to notice the secondary ionization all along the length of the anode. A high current we are going to get, a sudden increase in the electron and ion pair takes place, and this particular effect is called as avalanche of electron, avalanche effect. Avalanche effect takes place in the chamber. Avalanche effect means as soon as the primary ionization begins, the secondary ionization will spread throughout the chamber. A sudden increase in the number of electrons takes place, and in this voltage region, the gas multiplication is very high. It is of the order 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 8. Because of this avalanche of electrons, a very high current is measured, is obtained in this particular voltage region, and this voltage region is called as Geiger-Müller counter region. Geiger-Müller counter region. Okay, and you can notice the graph here. The current will no more depends upon the primary ionization, and the two curves are overlapping on one another, and here we are not having two different curves. Two curves will merge into a single curve. Okay. Now this particular voltage region, that is between V4 to V5, is called as Geiger-Müller counter region. So when the voltage is increased further, M increases, the multiplication factor increases, and a single ionizing particle can cause a secondary ionization all along the length of the anode, give rise to an avalanche of electrons. Hence, a very high current we are going to get in this particular voltage region. And this region, using this region, this voltage region, we can able to detect the particle, but we cannot able to identify the particle. Now, let us increase the voltage further. When the voltage in the gas ionization detector is greater than V5, even though the radiations are not allowed to enter into the chamber, we are going to see the current. We are going to get the current. Now this current is because of the discharge of the atoms. The potential at the anode itself is very high. It will ionize the atoms which are present in the chamber. Therefore, in the absence of the radiation, you are getting the current. And this particular voltage region is not useful to detect the particles. Therefore, this voltage, the region in which the voltage is greater than V5, the region at which the continuous discharge of the atoms takes place, is not useful, and therefore the further increasing the voltage is not having any meaning, and we are going to stop at this point. So finally, if you look at the complete graph, the graph of ionization current versus applied voltage is divided into 6 different regions. Among these 6 different regions, voltage regions, the first one is the recombination region, which is present at very low voltage range from 0 to V1, and this region is not useful in detecting the particle. The second region is V1 to V2, in which you are going to get a constant current which can able to measure all the primary ionization, and this region is called as ionization chamber region, and this voltage region is used to detect certain particles. And the next third region is proportional counter region, and here there exists a proportionality relationship between the applied voltage and the current. As a result, this region is also very useful in detecting the particle. The fourth region is limited proportional region. As there is no relationship between the applied voltage and the resultant current, this voltage region again is not useful in detecting the particle. Next, the Gregor-Muller counter region, fifth region. This region is used to detect whether the radiation has entered into the chamber or not, but this region is not useful in order to identify the particle which is entering into the chamber. Now after this, the last region is continuous discharge region, in which you are going to get very high ionization current. That is not because of the radiation which is radiation, but it is because of a very high potential difference between anode and cathode. So this is the complete discussion about the variation of ionization current with applied voltage. Okay. Now in the next presentation, we are going to discuss two detectors, one which works in proportional counter region, and those detectors are called as proportional counters. Proportional counters will work in proportional counter voltage region. And another detector we are going to discuss is GM counter. Now this GM counter works in the region which is nothing but Gregor-Muller counter region, that is in the voltage range V4 to V5. So in your syllabus we are going to discuss, according to your syllabus, we are going to discuss two important detectors. One is proportional counter, which works in proportional counter region, and GM counter, which works in the GM counter voltage region. And these two I am going to discuss in my next presentation. Okay, thank you.